Meow. So this is the third and final Rhino companion modification video. And it won't be quite as long as the others, hopefully. And I just want to show you what actually happened to the Rhino companion when I stripped it out, put back in the stuff I wanted to keep and added my other stuff, of which there was quite a lot and a large variety. First difference is the knife sharpener, which is unnecessary in my opinion for a get home kit, will be in it, both the traditional and the basic. Well, both of the knives have fire steels on them. Again, if I'm looking to save weight, I'm going to get rid of a lot of that stuff. Extra cartridge for me, and the basic compass for me, because I can map read, Kitty can't. That's something we're working on. A knife, some cotton for repair, decentish cotton, decentish size needles, the glass eye repair kit, which we don't really need, a few trash bags, some medications, and that's basically the difference. That's what we're going to be using, that's how we're going to do it. A mini Sawyer, I don't like mini Sawyers, I find them overcomplicated. However, I think this is good for potentially hiking home on the routes we're going, so that's why I'm taking it. However, I would be mostly prepared to take Aquatabs. Again, as you can see, there's a lot of water purification tablets. For a 40-kilometer, 26-mile journey, why are we taking so many Aquatabs? Again, it's in case we have to bug in before we can go home, or if we have to bug in on the way home. I don't want to be caught short. Some glass cleaning stuff and some anti-mosquito stuff. Oh, both kits have lens cleaners. In addition to the silk scarf, there's also a micro towel for filtering if we need to, and a pack of cards. A pack of cards, because if we're sheltering in the basement for 2 weeks, that might be a helpful thing to have. So all kits are personal, all kits should be designed by you, and you should absolutely know what's in all of the kits. It's not a thing of convenience, this is like serious life insurance. Yeah, most people just get whatever's the cheapest for the amount of money, but they don't look at the co-riders and all the rest of it. When you're doing a sort of kit like the Rhino Companion, it's a good kit. I have nothing against this. I do think $400 American is incredibly expensive for one of these, but it's a reasonable kit and it works well. When I did it, I figured out I could get this stuff for 320 Canadian, and then the bag's additional. So, you know, it's a fairly sturdy bag. It stood up quite well to quite a bit of abuse being stored. All of that stuff's going to go into this. A lot of these is just water, and that's still a lot of the weight. The first aid kit, there's only going to be one in the kits, and that's it. The emergency food rations, again, that's fairly heavy and bulky, and it's only 2,400 calories. I would seriously consider ditching this and replacing it with gels and bars. The radio, we only need one, we don't need to be carrying two, so that's why that's there. And these are empty bags. I did decide to go, at the moment, with the small and large pair of gloves in each pack, just in case only one pack's taken. It's certainly bulky, it's certainly something I might think about not doing. They're raincoats, I was quite impressed with them, and the reason I've kept them and not my smaller, cheaper versions is that would be good for radiological covering. Much better than what I've got, so that's why I've kept it. So there you go. What would you add? What would you not add that I've done, and why? And obviously if you live in a high desert area, or if you live in a deeply rural area, there are things you would have in this pack that I don't have. If I lived in a rural area, which I'm going to be moving to, some of the things that I would be removing is, for example, the Sawyer water filter. I would only carry water purification tablets because the water is very good where I am, and there's lots and lots and lots of it, and I don't have to be that concerned. The basic water purification tablet will work, but I would need to add things like bear spray, okay, and a really good mosquito net. So there's things that you need to alter, even if you are relocating only 4 hours drive from where you live right now. You've got to make these kits not based on what somebody on YouTube tells you must have, but you've got to base it on what you need. For example, we can argue that having 2 knives in each kit is overkill, and it is overkill, but I would argue in an urban environment, suburban environment, having a good knife that Kitty can wave at somebody is much more important psychologically for her, and maybe for, in the early phase of SHTF, for other people, than to have a small Swiss Army knife. Swiss Army knife might be, quote, more useful, but if you can't use a Swiss Army knife and you've never used one, and you're in an urban environment in the early phase of SHTF, I wanted to have a big solid full tang knife that looks brutal. I know she won't be able to use it, but other people don't know that. and part of prepping is to go through your gear, as Kitty says, once a year. Of course, I usually go through it about once every 6 months. I have been a bit behind that schedule for various reasons, but there you go. When I was going through my packs, I found all of these, and these are from a pocket box. Over the years, Preserving 101, 25 Best Knots, Bug Out Vest Survival, Natural Cordage, Survival Slingshots, Wilderness Drinks, Urban Weapons, and a book of lists, which tells you what to ransack from various types of businesses. Yeah, so that was worth finding. So the gels, I do recommend. Get rid of the lifeboat survival stuff if you've got weight issues. Go to a running store, go to a bike store, get single-use gels. They will last for years and years and years. These are probably at this point 10 years old. They work just fine. So this one is Kiddies, and as you can see from this, I've actually got some leftover wet dry bags. These are the Apocabox ones. They are not at all to put stuff in and submerge. It's just basically heavy rain bags. But they're always a useful thing to have because they can store water quite easily if you are stuck in place, if you have to bug in place. So I will probably put one in each. And you can see better on mine. Everything is as labelled and with additions in, so you'd have to read through it. Now I mentioned the water bottles are staying on the outside of the pack. This pack system does not have great water bottle holding. It has to be upright and the bottle has to be full. The reason these will be on the outside is I really don't think you should be storing water inside a pack. If you have to grab a pack and go quickly, one of the essential things to assume that you're going to get to your destination is to stay hydrated. So these will be full of water, and about every month or so I'll change them, and they will be on the side of the packs ready to go. So that should work reasonably well. You will see a flashlight and a whistle on the outside of both packs. I'm giving Kitty the blue ones because gender issues. So the food containers, like I hoped, have in fact fitted reasonably well under the front seat. So the next thing to do is to put in the RINO companion backpacks in there. I may have to sacrifice a little bit of seat room, we shall see. Well, the good news is they fit absolutely perfectly without me having to sacrifice any seat room. Now my seat's as full back as it can get on a Prius, and it fits. A sturdy surface for the Bull Terrier. So the last little thing to do is put a little bit more extra dehydrated food into that gap, and the RINO Ready companion is Huples Ready. And it is complete. First aid kit is around top, so Kitty can just grab it, or I can just grab it without any rooting around. And we still have a fair amount of chunky space in there for whatever. Quite pleased with this. Obviously it doesn't have the space of the RAV4, which is a major problem in terms of making the vehicle accessible for us. Now, I just want to point out something before I sign off. The journey that we're taking by foot to get home from work, in my youthful days, before I became fat and lazy, I could have ran that in less than 3 hours. So you've got to balance how fast you're likely to be able to travel with how difficult the travel is going to be. And obviously in an SHTF situation, you've zero idea. So because we work 12-hour shifts at work, so effectively work 13 hours on a regular basis, near the downtown urban core of Toronto, one of the major threats would be a radioactive accident at Pickering Nuclear Power Station, or even a dirty bomb, or even a nuclear war. So somebody asked me if I'm prepping for a nuclear war. In a way I am. I kind of like to prep for worst case scenario. So my worst case scenario is that the car won't work, it's unsafe to leave and travel back home for at least 2 weeks because I want the radiation to spike downwards before I start going out there. So that's why I've got such overkill. And for those people that have followed along, I have my everyday carry backpack that probably has enough stuff in there for a week or more. So there's good supplies here. We have good plans to get extra supplies in a rush at work, including water and fluids and food. So we're fairly well protected to be able to stay in place at work for a 2 to 3 week period. What we're not able to do is to actually be able to be protected against every eventuality. Nobody is. How far you design a get home kit in your car is up to you. If you live in a rural area, a long way away from any military base or any power station or any rail link that's not downwind of those things, and downwind means 100 miles. You don't really need all this amount of stuff. You need a lot more blankets and stuff like that. And obviously in the winter we have winter clothing and winter blankets in the car and a snow shovel and all of those things, so things have to change, bearing in mind the season, bearing in mind where you live. So don't think you have to do what I'm doing. Don't think you need to have a compass in your car. You really don't, if you know the area very well, and you can be assured of the fact there won't be dense smoke or you'll have to travel at night. So some of the things in here that I put in the packs, I don't need them in there. And I kind of thought, should I put this in? Should I not put this in? Do I need a notebook and a get home bag? Yeah, and I decided, yeah, I do, because I might not be coming home. It might be a bug in at work or bug in along the highway bag. Because if you're driving along the highway and there's a big flash behind you and the car stops working, because this is an electric hybrid and most of the cars stop working on the highway, you may wish to stop the car as soon as you can and go into a large building and go into the center of that building if you can't get into the basement, and stay there for a couple of weeks until you know what's going on, until the radiation levels dropped. You can't guarantee that you'll be able to continue the journey home. Remember, if you see a flash and there's a huge bang and there's a lot of debris damage, you've probably got 20 to 30 minutes before radiation drops onto you. And the radiation in the first hour of the drop, of the explosion or the leak, is likely to kill you, or at least seriously injure you and ruin the rest of your life. So you've got to look at worst case scenario, in my opinion, before you look at best case. A lot of preppers look at best case. Their bug out plans are based on driving from A to B, and they fool themselves by saying, well, I live in a city but I know all the back roads. No, so does everybody else. If people are trying to flee out of a city, the roads will be impassable. All the roads will be impassable, even without the police shutting roads, which they will. So you need to know how to walk out, how to cycle out, how to kayak out of wherever you are, and only bug out if you have somewhere to bug out to that's pre-supplied. A backpack stops you starving for a few days. It may allow you to get to a FEMA camp. It may allow you to get to a family friends. It may allow you to get to some guy you met online. They may or may not feed you. Nothing would be guaranteed in the total fall of society. This is just a bit of insurance for me to try and get me over the first couple of weeks of a major collapse and a major disaster. Would it work? Who knows? I hope I never have to find out. I hope it's just money wasted. So that's it from Huples Cat. In SHTF, you have to prepare, and if you don't prepare, you're going to be in trouble. So part of preparing is to be able to go home as rapidly and safely as you can in a wide variety of circumstances. You also need to be able to leave that home and go somewhere that's pre-supplied with equipment in case society's fallen for a period of time or forever. It's additional too. For the vast majority of people, all you need to do is be able to get home and have 72 to 144 hours worth of water, food, shelter and heat in the home. That would cover you for almost everything that's going to happen. If something major happens, like a nuclear war between China and America, I'm not altogether convinced that in-depth prepping like I do, because I enjoy the hobby, will actually make a difference to my long-term survival, but in the short term it will, and that's why I'm still doing it. Anyway, doodles. This was a Cat in a Box production, 2020.